My name is Patty Overland, and I'm a local Bay Area disabled lesbian. And 3 weeks ago, I was invited to a fundraiser for the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. They were having a fundraiser at a home, private home in Oakland, California, and I was planning on attending that meeting. And I had spoke to Sue Troutman from the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force about whether that home was going to be wheelchair accessible, and she gave me the number of the people whose home it was, and I called them and I said, is it wheelchair accessible? And a couple of weeks, 2 weeks after that, or a week or two after that, the woman whose home it was said she was going to check it out with one of her friends about whether in fact it was wheelchair accessible. And what she said is that the friend had checked it out and they were going to make it wheelchair accessible. Then the fundraiser was going to be held on Tuesday, the 8th, Tuesday, May 8th, and what happened is on Monday, May 7th, I get a message on my machine that in fact the accessibility has fallen through, that whoever was going to help make the ramp to their home, that had fallen through, and that she was sorry, the person whose home it was sorry, but it was not going to be wheelchair accessible, so that I couldn't go. And neither could any of my friends. I tried to rally a couple of my friends to see if they wanted to go up and stage a protest in front of the home to draw attention to the fact that we could not get inside the home where the fundraiser was going to be. And once again, as disabled lesbians, we feel shut out of the agenda for a national gay and lesbian task force. Now, this task force has given 2 Creating Change conferences here in Oakland, California, which I have attended in 09 and 05. I went to in 99 and in 05. 1999 and 2005, I went to both those conferences for Creating Change. And what this leaves me to think is, creating change for who? Like, do we get, as disabled lesbians, to be seen as part of this agenda, part of this community? I mean, we already know we're in the disability community, but the disability community is very busy making everything wheelchair accessible and that sort of thing. And this is very frustrating for us.
Hi, so this is Leslie Gordon, and I'm Joey Bright. I've just returned from talking to Sue Troutman of the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force about the event that happened tonight at the private home. And when I showed footage to you, Leslie, of the access to the house, long driveway, big driveway, there's one gap that's happening, and then maybe a 4-inch rise. This is this is what you had to say about this, huh? Let's see. So you've typed this out. And now you're going to use the speaker feature.
I would like to know why this event was not accessible. It would have been very easy to put a temporary ramp up over the 4-inch stair from the ground to the house. It is a perfect example of how the lesbian community ignores the disability community because they think we are asexual. They are judging us the way the traditional heterosexual community judges them, and it's absolutely wrong.
Cheering applause.
You stand by your words?
Okay. So I'm Sue Troutman, and I work in the New York office of the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force. And am I addressing Leslie? Or
The community
sure.
of gay and lesbians who are disabled and couldn't make it here tonight.
And I received Leslie's letter, and I was planning to respond tomorrow. I was traveling today, so I didn't get a chance to respond. But Leslie raises obviously very good points, and we do apologize that this was not an accessible event. It was a private event that by one of our longtime supporters who wanted to host something for the task force. And we were hoping to do a community event this time, but we couldn't. We were a little bit, we didn't get a chance to put it all together in time. So we're hoping to do that in the fall with the help of some of our board members. And if Leslie would be maybe willing to help with that, I'd love to partner with her to put something together that is more centrally located and accessible for everybody who'd like to attend.
Do you have anybody in the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force who has disability as an issue that they are sort of monitoring so that the task force can make sure that they're complying with all kinds of things, and whether it's, social implication or legal?
Honestly, I don't know. We have about 50 folks in I think it's 5 or 6 different offices, and if anybody has a disability, it's not one that I'm personally aware of. Which doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It just means that I don't know that about my colleague or colleagues.
Oh, you're talking about staffers within the organization?
Oh, right, yes.
Okay, and I'm wondering if there's anybody that's been put on the task force to have this as a special thing, sort of under their vision to make this as important as this transgender issue, reaching out to the African American community, reaching out to Latinos, all of that. Is there a thing around disability, period, as a subject, as an important topic?
Honestly, I don't know in general. I know that it is something the task force takes into consideration for creating change, for the Creating Change conferences. In general, for the rest of the year, I don't know one way or another. I'm certainly happy to find out, and I think we would more than welcome doing that.
Okay. Hi, Joey.
Hey.
Thanks for coming.
What do you think about the footage I showed you of the event that happened the other night?
Well, my first reaction is how easy it would be to make it wheelchair accessible. Very small rises, very small doors, threshold, and simple wedges is all that would be needed to make it completely wheelchair accessible. Even for people with mobility impairments, perhaps using walker or crutches, can go up it very easily.
Are you telling me that you would have been able to get there in this wheelchair, from what I showed you?
Yes, I am. I also use a power wheelchair that would have gone over the first rise that had gravel and possibly bump up the second, maybe not, depending on how high it is. But with a small wedge, easily go over it. And also a wedge at the door threshold could have gone over. So, but let me tell you a little bit about who I am and how I know this. My name, of course, is Jill Lessing, and for the past 30 years I've been a disability consultant, group facilitator, and activist for the rights of people with disabilities here in the San Francisco Bay Area, which happens to be the home of the independent living movement. In 2010, I was involved with a nonprofit group declaring 2010 to be the year of the disabled lesbian. And therefore, I and many of our cohorts are kind of appalled that the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force doesn't have a focus on inclusion of disability as an issue around which to create justice. And accessibility is primary on that list, to create inclusion and equality and being seen. And we as disabled lesbians are contributing to the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force all the time in many ways, through our money, through our activism, through our intelligence, our knowledge, our experience. And we don't want to be left out, just like as lesbians, we don't want to be left out. There is something I would like to add, and that is where the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force can go from here. It would be easy, very easy, to get a consultant for a nominal fee or even volunteer to give an in-service training about disability sensitivity and how to create access for all disabled people. Perhaps an outgrowth of that could be a set of criteria that would include disability access at your events. Gather my thought. So it's very clear that there are issues that are extremely important to the organization. Transgender, marriage equality, racial equality. People with disabilities continue to get marginalized and left out of functions, left out of a priority issue of inclusion and access. We'd like to see that change. So in the future, what I would hope for is that when an individual wants to hold a fundraiser at their home, that they be vetted on the actual needs and criteria that ought to be followed for access to all people. Thank you.
So, Patty, I understand you've written a letter. Is this to Sue Troutman or the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force?
This is to the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force.
And this is because you don't have a computer, right?
Right, I don't have a computer.
So you don't do email either. You do everything by telephone pretty much?
Right.
And letters. And so, go ahead, read your letter.
It is disappointing that the meeting held on May 8th was not wheelchair accessible as it was supposed to have been. But why pick a private home up in the Oakland Hills? Why not a library like the downtown Berkeley one near BART and the buses? And why, as Crip Dykes, are we being left out of the conversations of the many issues which are in the Dyke community, like race, class, affordable health care? I have given money to the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force in the past, but I will no longer.